Welcome to the Elite Trainer Academy, brought to you by Mind Pump. Today, I sit down with Adam Schafer and we talk all things business. We get into what it takes to become a successful six-figure personal trainer. You'll also get some behind-the-scenes insights into the personal training business that we're building here at Mind Pump. If you find this episode valuable, please share. Enjoy the show. If I'm a brand new trainer and I want to build a consistent six-figure income, where do I start?
I mean, the first thing is getting the reps and getting good at your craft. I think we want to jump to all the other things, from building websites to SEO to, sales and closing. But at the end of the day, it takes a lot of practice to get good at anything that you do. And some people tend to have a natural gift and it takes a shorter period of time. But generally speaking, to be really good and I think that any trainer that makes six figures and above is really good. It's a hard job, and it's a hard job to build a client list that is big enough to support that kind of income consistently. And so the first place you start is getting practice, is getting reps, is taking, and this is, I think, a mistake that a lot of trainers make is they're always measuring everything they do by like, oh, how much did I get paid for this time or whatever. And you're in the learn phase right now. You're not in the earn phase. Your opportunity to get somebody in front of you is more valuable than the dollars they're paying you currently where you're at in this phase. So it's like, if my aunt has time to get trained, I'm training her. If that guy is like, I can't sell it to him, but he would spend an hour with me and he's curious, like, I'm going to train him. I'm going to get as many people in front of me so I can practice my skill. And because there is a skill and an art to, one, learning to be a chameleon, because you're going to train all different types of people. And so the way I approach you is different than the way I approach a 70-year-old grandma who just cares about chronic pain. And so you don't know that until you've done that 2, 3, 5 times. And so a lot of this at the beginning, this race to become a six-figure trainer or more, is rooted in how fast can I get those reps? And I think the mistake that a lot of trainers make is they're not willing to do a lot of that work and not get paid. And so it takes them so much longer. Whereas if they were just open to getting in front of as many people as they possibly can, and because you learn a lot along the way, just simply by doing that. And so if I was going to tell a trainer where to start first, hey, start getting people in front of you. Because I can work with that. So as a boss of trainers, which is what I've done most of my career, I can work a lot with somebody who can come back and say, Adam, what do you do in this situation? Or I had this client, they told me this, or this person they always tell me no when I do this. It's like, if I have things to refer to because you've gone in and you've done the work, then I can go like, oh, well, that's because you're approaching it this way. Here's a better way to do it. So that is step one. Step one is to get out and get the work, get the hours. We tend to say get 100 people or 100 sessions in front of you, and they don't need to be paid. Just get 100 reps in, and I think that alone it will take you far more than a lot of the other things that we talk about on the internet.
How long does that typically take? Like, what would a realistic time frame be for a trainer that's wondering, like, okay, I need to get the reps in, I need to build my business? Is this 1 year, 3 year, 5 years? From what you've seen with trainers, how long does it take somebody to get to that point?
I mean, that's a great question because there's a huge range. I've seen trainers be able to do this in a couple months. I've seen other trainers take years.
So those trainers that takes a couple months, are there consistent like traits that you see in those trainers?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Can you give me some?
Yeah, that's they approach failure differently. They also approach work ethic differently. They look at it exactly how I talk about it, which is, I'm probably not very good at this, even though I went to school, I got my degree, I got my national certs, I've got the education around it. I recognize that I haven't done a lot of this, and I'm not really, really great yet, especially if I compare myself to that other guy who's been doing this for 20 years. So what's their biggest advantage they have? I've got the degree, I've got the national certification. So why? Well, because they've had so much more practice. Therefore, I got to get as much practice as I possibly can. We see these in professional athletes. The greatest people we talk about, the Michael Jordans, the Kobe Bryants, even at that level, that's what they saw was an opportunity of like, oh, if I go put more work in before everybody else even gets up, or I stay later when everybody else goes home, those hours add up every day, every week, every month, every year. And then by the end of a year, it's exponentially more than the average person or the slow person. So the traits in those trainers is they have this approach towards work ethic and failure that is completely different than the average. They embrace failure. They're not worried about if the client told them no or they didn't have a great experience. They're just like, again, this is practice right now. And then they have incredible work ethic. They have those trainers that get that. I'll take a trainer with less education, less experience, less knowledge, that has that work ethic and that mindset towards failure, than the trainer with the masters, 4 national certifications, and 4 years experience. Because I know what I can do with that trainer who is willing to put that work in, willing to put the reps in, accepts that they're probably not very good right now, and embraces failure as an opportunity for growth. And they recognize that they're currently in the learn phase of their journey and not the earn phase. I think that's a huge difference between those trainers.
Do you think that mindset can be taught, or is it just something that somebody has?
Ooh. I mean, I think we're really interesting creatures. I think we could be taught a lot. Do I think some people have a natural advantage? Absolutely.
Sure.
And we could sit here and talk all day about, evolution and nature versus nurture, and, does it have more to do with their childhood upbringing and the adversity they had to overcome at such a young age, so now they have applied it better? I don't know. It's a fun conversation, but I don't think it really matters because it can be taught. I have seen trainers that are introverted and shy and have the ability to learn that work ethic, learn that the failure part is okay. Some people just don't realize that, and a lot of that I think has to do most times with their childhood. Like if you didn't fail a lot growing up and you haven't experienced that a lot, then when it happens, you get a little shell shocked. But if you're somebody who has already failed a bunch, it's like, oh, this is par for the course. Like this is just part of the game. So some trainers, when they first get in that, we're talking about the ones that aren't already naturally gifted that way, they get a little shell shock. But then once they embrace, like, oh, this is how it's going to be. Like I get it. Like I just got to get back up and do it again and do it again and do it faster. I think they can learn that trait. I absolutely think they can learn that trait. I think it's like comparing athletes, right? I love to draw analogies of sports, and I could have been a way better basketball player if I took the approach that Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan did, where they completely sacrificed everything else in their life, got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, did this every day. Like mathematically, I would have been a way better basketball, way better. Maybe even made it to college, or maybe even I could have made it semi-pro, but I would have never been Kobe Bryant. Like he did all those things and he had a natural gift, but that doesn't mean that I couldn't have totally dramatically shifted the player that I was. I just, being honest, I didn't have enough desire to be that. And so it's the same thing for the personal trainer. If they have that desire, that's dangerous. Like you can do a lot with that trainer who's willing to do whatever it takes to get good at their craft. And yes, I do believe I can teach it or instill it in somebody, but I also believe that somebody who has that natural gift and also gets that, they're the Kobe Bryant, they're the Michael Jordan. Yeah. But that rarely happens. A lot of times the trainer who has the natural gift is the lazy one.
Yeah.
because they just have the gift of gab and they're charismatic and people are drawn to them naturally. They've been told how pretty and smart they are their whole life. And so the business comes a little easy to them. So many times I've seen that. I love to tell the story about Justin when many times when I hired trainers in pairs because I love to, one, you and I were talking about this off air. It's efficient with my time. I got to do the same training. Better to do it with 2, 3, or 4 than to do it one at a time and slower. So I always love to train in pairs or threes. And I hired Justin straight out of college at the same time as another guy, and they were both very, very different. The other guy was loud, outgoing, charismatic, had a lot of personality. And I remember when I first hired them, he's definitely going to end up probably being better than Justin. Like he's got it. He's got the natural gift. And I've got them both working with each other at the same time. And Justin was an example of my paradigm being shattered. Like he showed me that, no, you can be kind of the shy, not outgoing type of person, doesn't like the limelight, not the most charismatic person, and you can work your way to being better than the naturally gifted. And he did. It was a very short period of time that he surpassed that guy. It was within 3 to 4 months, he was already significantly outperforming him. And the other guy was good. He was a good trainer. He was a trainer who's worked with me a long time, still has a business 15, 20 years later and very successful. But Justin became my assistant and my right hand because he proved to me that you don't need those natural gifts. You can develop them. You can work your way to having them. And so, yeah, it's definitely possible.
What's your advice to the trainer that their biggest obstacle is the fear of rejection?
Reps. Yeah, so this is going to sound a bit sexist. I don't mean for it to be. In my experience, if I was comparing the difference between women trainers and men trainers, one of the biggest hurdles that my female trainers had to overcome was being told no a lot. Men get told no a lot, way more for the most part. There's always exceptions to the rule, and that's the part that people are going to think that's sexist or whatever. But for the most part, generally speaking, women get told yes a hell of a lot more than men do. Yeah. Well, unless you're that exception to the rule, pretty boy, model guy who everybody doted after and stuff like that. But those are few and far between. For the most part, we are always seeking for women's attention and telling them yes and doing whatever we can to win their approval and attention. And so a lot of times that trainer has been told yes so much that being told no is like really rough. And then in the business, asking for people's money, you're going to get a lot of no's. I don't care how pretty you are or how often you hear yes. And so that can really shell shock that trainer because they've been told. And again, it works on both sides. I've seen men too. It's more common in my female trainers than it is my men. But my best trainers were my female trainers that understood that, and it didn't slow them down at all. They were they were competitive with it. Like, oh, okay, it's no big deal. And just the reps of being told no. I mean, in sales, there's an old statistic. I don't know how accurate it is or when the last time somebody stress tested or whatever, but typically you get 7 no's before you get a yes. And so if you're the type of person who, as soon as you hear 1 or 2 no's, you get discouraged or you give up, you're going to have a really tough time. But if you know that going in that, oh, I'm going to get at least 7. I mean, I remember I used to tally it while I was talking. So I'd be talking with a client and I'd have their thing and I have a pencil right here and we'd be talking. I'd like scratch on the side because I had to train myself because 7 no's is a lot, especially in a conversation with somebody. And so if I was always letting the client walk away or I didn't sell the deal, and then I looked down at that piece of paper and I only checked 3 no's, and I was doing that to almost every client or potential client that came in front of me, I wasn't even statistically giving myself the ideal opportunity. And so it became a thing that I would do to practice is like, I'm going to get to 8 no's. And if they get to 8 no's and they're still saying no, it's like, okay, maybe they're not the best client for me, or I'm not providing enough value, and I would move on. But I started to recognize something as like a lot of people, just from me circling the wagon, taking more time to build even more value, even though I heard a no early on, and being like, just kind of deaf ear that and go, oh, I need to add more value. I need to provide more value. I need to show more. I need to teach more. And circling back around, I started to notice that just that effort to create more value in that short period of time, I started to overcome more of those no's. And, sometimes it was 5, sometimes it was 6, sometimes it was all the way to 7. But just the effort of, I'm going to get told no probably 7 times before I get a yes. And so knowing that, embracing that, and then going towards it versus every time you hear it going, and then you go back and you tell the boss, oh, well, they couldn't afford it, or, oh, they didn't have the time, or all the excuses, right? And I'm like, well, is that all they said? Or they only told you no one time? It's like, oh, well, get back in there. They're going to, that's normal. You know what I'm saying? Like they're going to say no a lot of times. So yeah, the quicker you can embrace that, go towards that. And I recommend to trainers that are trying to learn sales, get better at effective communication, to kind of track it and pay attention. Because you'd like we talk about with our clients, like tracking macros or tracking your water. It's like everybody thinks they eat plenty of protein. Everybody thinks they drink plenty of water. And then when they actually track, they realize, oh my God, I'm suboptimal. I'm like grossly under drinking water. I'm grossly under eating protein. Yet I was under the impression that I was. So for the coaches and trainers that are trying to improve this skill, simply just becoming aware and tracking is a valuable exercise. And you go, oh, wow, I'm really just kind of jumping the gun. I hear 1 no and I'm out, and if the average person needs 7, I need to put a little more practice in.
Yeah, I think that's something that really helped me, was kind of like operationalizing some of this kind of stuff, like putting numbers behind it. I'm not the most outgoing, charismatic salesperson. So this is something I could totally relate to, is like being afraid of getting that rejection, when you're first getting into sales. Mm-hmm. Something that really helped me was actually advice. This was, I don't know, I was probably like 18 years old getting into 17, 18 years old getting into gym sales and personal training sales. And I had been listening to the podcast for a couple of years at this point. And one of the things that you talk about all the time is knowing your numbers as a trainer. Mm-hmm. And this is, obviously that helps to know, like when you have revenue targets and you have, goals that you're trying to hit, it helps to know your numbers so you can kind of reverse engineer it. You know how many people you need to talk to. But then also, like, it actually really helped me on this, like overcoming the fear of rejection with sales, is knowing if I know my numbers, I know how many people I need to talk to book an assessment. And it's like, then I can be very objective about it. It's
totally.
Like, I need to talk to 3 people to book an assessment. And then it's like, I already know going into it, 2 of those people aren't going to.
Right.
And that's okay. So I accept it before I go into the conversation. Obviously, we're trying to improve the numbers. So it's like, I'm not just going to lay down and like, just give away those 2 people.
Right.
But like, it helps a lot going into it, knowing like, all right, I'm going to get rejected 2 out of these 3 conversations that I have. So I think that's like a really powerful thing, is like just operationalizing it a little bit, putting some numbers behind it. That kind of helps take some of the, because you take it personally a little bit. And I think that's where some of the rejection comes from.
Totally.
Is like you internalize it too much. So just kind of turning it into like some numbers helped me anyways a lot.
I think that a lot of that is just the pure awareness around it. We tend to, humans in general, I don't care if we're talking about a personal trainer who's trying to build their business or a client who's trying to lose 50 pounds, we tend to, in our head, we think we are working so hard, or we're doing all the things, and you simply just tracking it. And this is speaking to both situations, both the client who's trying to lose weight or the trainer who's trying to get sales or get clients. Just tracking and being aware of it really kind of opened your eyes of like, oh, I guess I didn't talk to that many people. Felt like, and because in my head, I felt like I did a lot of work, or I did a lot of things, or I saw a lot of people. But then when I actually put it down on paper, I go, oh, wow, I guess it wasn't that many, And I feel like clients have that same level of awareness. And I think as you become aware of that, and then you you look at it through that lens of like, yeah, that's every trainer gets told no, and every trainer has to talk to multiple people before one of them books an appointment or says yes. So what? Then the most important thing is figuring out what your numbers are. Like, to your point, like, okay, I'm going to talk to 3 people and only one of them will probably book. So play that out, go to 30. So how many does that mean? Go to 60. How does that mean? Go to 90. And like, okay, now the goal is I need to book 10, 15 people. So that means I got to talk to X amount. Like, oh, so then I'm just focusing on that. I'm not focusing on the inevitable no's and rejections. That's going to happen through that process. And what happens in that process, probably something you experienced, is you get better.
Yeah.
You as you're approaching it with that attitude, you get better and better. And this is where like mentors, this is what I feel like we try and cultivate with our community of trainers is, let's say, because you didn't have this back when you started, but imagine you were a part of our community and you set your goal for the month of, I got to talk to 90 people because I know that's how many it's going to take for me to book 30 of them, okay, let's go. And then every time you didn't book one, instead of you just chalking up as like, oh, that's just all part of failure, you go like, oh, what did I do? Or talking to your peers or talking to somebody else who you have a lot of respect for in this space and going, hey, I did this and I did that and, they told me this. Like, what would you have said? Like, oh man, talk about, finding a way to accelerate your growth and your skill is to reflect on the failures and unpack them on, hey, maybe how did Kobe Bryant, how he would have handled that move? I know I got smoked, but how would he have handled? And then he goes, oh yeah, I would have done this and then done that and then set him up. And then we go, oh, okay. So then, because you're going to see that again. And when you see it again, you can go like, okay, this is that play, this is where I don't say this or I don't do that, or I need to do a little more of this before I ask for something else. Like, okay, I get it. And then you just sharpen that sword.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, that mindset of like, getting to rejection quickly. It's the work ethic mindset. Aside from that, what are some of the successful traits that you see across the board with the trainers that tend to turn out to be the most successful?
The ones that tend to be more successful do embrace the whole sales and effective communication thing that we talk about. Is you don't have to be naturally gifted in sales, but I always had a hard time with trainers who like were resistant to it even.
Right.
To the point where there's like, I just want to help people.
Yeah.
And I just want to do it this way, and you're just like, oh God, like if you're going to be that stubborn about it and you're not going to be open-minded to see that, all sales is effective communication, everything that you're doing with this client is sales, getting them to adhere to a diet, getting them to show up to their appointment, getting them to improve their form, getting them to buy more sessions. It's all the same thing. You are trying to persuade that person to certain behaviors or answers or form and technique that you want them to. And the better you are at communicating, the more success you will have at all of those.
Yeah.
And so the trainers that switch goes off and goes like, oh, that makes sense. Like, of course. And then goes like, okay, I suck. I naturally don't like sales, but I get that. And I'm gonna practice this. I'm gonna get better at it, and I'm gonna learn. Those ones, they're gonna be okay. And then it just becomes, do they pick it up in a month? Or does it take a year of hard work for them? I was in everything. I'm a slow learner. I'm a slow reader. I wasn't the most gifted athletically. I've been pretty good at a lot of things I do, but not naturally. Because I embraced that work side. I've everything that I've ever done or approached, I've approached it with that mindset of this, like, well, I want to do this, but I do recognize I'm not very good, and I just got to do a lot of it, because what I know about myself is the average guy may only need to do it 10 times. I'm probably gonna have to do it 30 times. And so even that person, like if they don't have the advantage, but they're willing to do that, like those ones are the ones that are going to be okay and do much better. The ones that are going to be really hard, And notice I'm not talking about education and how talented you are, because I've seen all of it. Like you could have all the best answers. I've had trainers on their way to get their doctorate because they want to be an MD. And so just brilliant. I mean, and they, of course, because they're very smart trainers, they've picked up 7, 8 national certifications along the way. They're going on to be a doctor. And I, when I'd have problems with my clients, this is even like a decade into my training, right? I'm pretty knowledgeable. I've got a lot of experience. I've got a lot of national certs. I ran into something medically or physically I wasn't aware of, or I'd never trained before. Like I went to my trainer and be like, hey, and in fact, this trainer I'm thinking of, his name was Adam. Adam, like my client's got this and that. Like, what would you do? Like, and then let him educate me on how to communicate. Ironically, that guy struggled to be successful because as smart as he was and all the answers he had a really hard time effectively communicating to the other person. So I don't give a shit how smart, good, and experienced you are. If you can't take that information and help somebody else apply it in their life, it's worthless. It's worthless, at least in this profession. You've got to be able to take all that stuff that you've learned through experience and reading books and get that person across from you to apply some of it in life in order for you to change their life. And what you realize with the more experience that you get, there's a handful of really basic things that doesn't take a high degree or a high amount of experience, that if you can get those people to adopt, that you could significantly change their life. And so the trainers that figure that out early, hey, if I get my client to improve sleep, if I get my client to adhere to eating protein consistently every day like they're supposed to, if I can get my client to show up to their 2-3 workouts a week, I mean, that doesn't take a lot of science. Yeah. It takes effective communication. How well do you sell it to your people that it can be life-changing for them if they adopt it? And how well can you forecast for them that, hey, it's not gonna be overnight. You're not gonna fix one night of sleep and eat protein right one day and go do one workout, and you're gonna have the body or the look or the feel or the fitness that you want. It's going to take a while, and that's part of it. But you're going to see it's going to start to snowball, and then it's going to click for you, and it's going to change your life. That trainer who can convince that client to do that, regardless of their level of experience and education, will do really, really well.
How do you improve your communication skills? Like I know your initial answer is going to be get the reps, but I know a lot of trainers that have been trainers for a long time, and they haven't really improved their communication skills. So like working under the assumption that somebody is getting the reps, like what's the difference between those two trainers, the one that is actually actively improving their communication skills and the one that's not? What are they doing differently?
Humility. I used to say, you want to be the cockiest yet most humble trainer at the same time. Cocky is a strong word, but it gets people's attention when I say that. Like, cocky, why would you want to be cocky? Well, you want to be really confident.
Yeah.
Confident in your abilities, confident in your skills to be a good trainer, even if you're not one yet, confident that you will be one, but also humble that I can always learn, I could always do better. And first rule of leadership is everything is my fault. So one of my biggest pet peeves when teaching trainers was when a trainer would not re-sign a client or walk a fitness appointment or a free appointment, and that person went by, and then I would ask them, how'd it go, or what happened? And they would default right away to that person's excuse. Oh man, I would throw my shit across the wall. It used to piss me off because I used to teach to this so much. Mm-hmm. Like, it is always our fault. It's always my fault. It comes down to two things when everybody makes a decision to invest in you: value and price. And what I don't even need to hear the person's excuse. What they saw was the value, or the price was here and the value was here. Yeah. And you have a lot of control of that, on how much value you can provide them. Because yes, personal training is expensive. Not everybody has a lot of money. But let me tell you, when somebody thinks that the help that you're providing them is as important as the electricity that runs their house, or the gas that goes in their car or the groceries that they pick up, when they value you the same way, they find a way to invest in you. And so if you have the ability to look at every walk like that, every deal that didn't close as I could have been better, huge hack. And the ones that don't have that humility, especially, and this happens to trainers. They have this kind of like mediocre rise to success. They get pretty good. They have a little bit of a clientele, and they've decided, I've figured it out. And, if people don't buy, it's because of them, or whatever. I'm a good trainer. My clients say so. And so you've capped yourself. I mean, I don't know, what am I, 25 years more? Like, I still approach with that same attitude. Like, no, I'm not. I could always be better. I always could. And not only can I always be better, but I also recognize, and somebody who's done a lot of reps knows this too, sometimes I'm just on my game. Sometimes I exude another level of energy. Everything I say is flowing correctly. I'm vibing with the client. There's just this. I mean, I call it flow state, right? We're both in this incredible flow state that you're loving the session. I'm teaching you so well. It's like we're one as a team, working towards this goal together. Like, oh man, and then there's other times where I'm choppy. I'm tired. I'm fumbling over my words. I'm lazy the way I'm saying things, and it's like I could be the same. It could happen in the same week. Yeah, and so I know that, and so if I approach every opportunity with a potential client or client as, what could have I done better in that situation for that client to have re-signed with me or that client to have enrolled with me, that humility will get you really far if you approach every single one like that, instead of defaulting to, oh, it's because of them, blaming others like that. Yeah. And by the way, this stings for some trainers that may be listening right now who probably are guilty of doing that. But it's a bit of victimhood. Yeah. That's you blaming them that they like, nah, bro, you could have been better. Yeah. And if you have that humility, while also being confident that I am good, because you also don't want to beat yourself up, right? Because then there's the extreme version of that of like, I suck so bad and I can't live. That's not good either. You tell yourself that, you will be that, right? If you tell yourself you're shitty and tell yourself you can't do it, like you're probably right? So you want to have confidence that I could have done better. I am good. Like, man, what did I do? And then unpacking it and then getting better. Man, yeah, that'll take you really far. And it'll also stifle you if you stop learning, you stop growing.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, as you're talking about this, like, I'm just now connecting the dots on this, but I mean, this is Marcelo. So I know this about Marcelo, and this is one of the things that I loved about him. One of the reasons I wanted to bring him on to our training staff, he's one of our personal trainers here, is he is like one of the most humble people. And every time he has anytime he has an assessment, a sales call, a session, he's always coming to me asking me questions. He's like, regardless of the outcome, whether it went well or it didn't, he's always asking questions. He's like, I did this, I said this. What are your thoughts on that? What should I have said? And I've known this about him and I love it. But now as you're saying this, connecting the dots, I mean, he's had multiple months where he's been our top sales guy. And so absolutely, I think that's connected. He's absolutely taking those things and he's learning and applying.
And I remember when you first brought him to me and we started, it's like, I can see that in somebody. Like, I know, like, oh yeah, he's going to be okay. He's not, and he didn't bite all. I mean, we had met Marcelo several times. He had showed up to a lot of our events and everything like that. He did not have this overwhelming charismatic personality. I was like, oh man, this guy would be a great trainer. But he had this humility and willingness to learn about him and desire that I can see it burning in him. Like you can just underneath there's this roaring fire. And you have other trainers like Cole where you can see the fire. Yeah. Right? He exudes the fire. He walks around and he's on fire and he's just got the personality, he's charismatic. But then, look out for the trainer who's also got that burning desire inside, and it comes out in different ways. It comes out in that humility, that willing to learn, to always ask questions, to be humble enough to take criticism, to, oh yeah. I mean, so yeah, when you get them, they're special. special trainer. I mean, watching you develop this team has been so fun for me because of all the things I've done in my career. Is my favorite thing I've ever done is developing trainers, because you get such a wide variety of different coaches and trainers, and the skills are all unique and different and beautiful. And I made a mistake in my early career because I was promoted really early in my 20s and thrusted into leadership at a pretty young age, similar to like you. And my original approach, because I had proven to be the best, that's how I got to where I was. My original approach was try and make everybody like me. And why this carried on probably for too long is I still had continued success, because I would go through, I'd say I'd hire 10 trainers, I'd find one that was like me, and then I'd pour myself in that one, and then her and I, or him and I would just we would kill it. But it took so much energy for me to always be on like that, and having to find the next version of me to build this team. And then I realized that it's much like a football team, and it's like, and you know this, being a football player, that every position is incredibly unique and incredibly important. And if I could learn to look at my staff like, oh, she's a wide receiver, like, oh, he's a lineman. He's going to do that grunty work and he doesn't need to be the one everybody talks about, stuff like that. But boy, I need that. And like recognizing that this team that I'm building, like a football team, I need all the positions. Having 5 superstar quarterbacks on paper sounds really cool, but boy, that could get exhausting trying to win all the games with just 5. But if I have an incredible line, I've got an incredible defense, I've got great wide receivers, I've got great running back, and I lean into those strengths of each of them and accept them for what they're not. I'm not going to get mad at my lineman because he can't catch a ball, because he's not supposed to. Boy, my job got a lot easier. I had even more success, and I was nowhere near as exhausted as I was trying to make a bunch of me's. So that was a big learning curve in my journey of leadership, was realizing that I'm building a team and that I can get each of these great players, but great for different reasons, to lean into their strengths and accept that, Cole's never going to be like Marcelo, and Marcelo's never going to be like Cole, but learning how to get the best out of each of them, and me learning to get the best out of each of them collectively turned into a superstar team.
So how do you balance that though? Because that makes sense. Like, somebody has strengths and natural gifts and things that they're good at, whether naturally or they developed. How do you balance that though with viewing the things that maybe are subpar, suboptimal, that they need to improve? Like, how do you know when it's worth your while to continue to develop those things that maybe are lacking, or just continue to like focus in on the things you're really good at? Do you know what I'm kind of asking?
Yeah, of course I know. This is business. And this doesn't matter if we're talking about people or we're talking about line items in the company. It's ROI. Where is the greatest return on my investment?
Sure.
If Marcelo isn't the most charismatic and doesn't like have this ability to make his clients giggle and laugh the same way Cole does, like, I could try and teach that, but the effort to try and make him be like that, how much more on my investment am I going to get? Like, is it really going to make him that much better of a trainer? Like, he has these other strengths that he's really good at. And if I applied the same attention as a leader towards him being a more charismatic type of Cole, or I go, oh, he's really good at this, I'm going to push him in that direction because he's already good at it and help him be great. Where will I get the most return on my business? Oh, yeah, pushing him in his direction. So, and that doesn't mean I just totally just not ever mention what he could get better. No, we could still have those, when those conversations surface, or I'm going to encourage him to shadow and pay attention to some of the things Cole do so they can try and learn and pick up on it. But I'm not going to spend a lot of time as a leader trying to make a trainer like another trainer because that other trainer is having so much success in whatever category. I'm going to look at what each of them do really well and push them further in that direction. Because what you'll find, and this is, this with working out, with the sports, the things you watch. We gravitate to the things we like and what we're good at.
Yeah.
We're just naturally like that way. So it's like you being a good football player and me recognizing it and being like, you're going to play tennis. And you're like, okay, you got some competitive sides to you, so you're willing to learn, but I'm putting all this energy. It's like, I could have made you a great football player. You already love doing it. Yeah. So I want to put most of my energy into that because you could become great in that because you're already good and you already love doing it. And so you take, and we're using our people, right? You take Marcelo and you go, the things that we just communicated about him, like, he's really, really good at those things. What if he was like 100 times even better at those things?
Yeah.
Like, and then could he be so good that he like carries everybody else, or he starts to teach everybody else those things? And like, how good would that be if I pushed him in that direction so much that he's that good that he's now starting to impact the rest of my team? And how likely is he to like that and want to do that?
Yeah.
And like, so my time or my investment in what I'm going to focus on is going to give me the greatest ROI as the team, as a coach.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the most fun things about what we're doing here is like, I've been really intentional about wanting to create this environment where everybody is just growth focused. I mean, that's one of the biggest things I'm looking for when we're interviewing trainers is like, I want that mindset, like someone that's coming in wanting to grow and develop as a trainer. And so it's really cool, like this cool experience where we have all these trainers that all have that mindset and they do have their unique strengths. And so like seeing everybody together, like learning from each other, it's one of the coolest things. And so like, that's what I'm most excited about with what we're building is like seeing everybody just, bring each other up. Oh,
it's so fun when you build a team like that. That's just, and you've probably played on teams like this. Like when you play on a sports team, that everybody kind of gets that. Like those are some of the best sports stories. I mean, the San Francisco Giants when they won their 2 titles, the Warriors when they won their titles, the Boston Red Sox when they came back from that epic. I mean, these weren't the most talented on paper teams. These weren't the ones that went out with the biggest budgets and bought all the best players and stuff like that. But so how did they win? How were they so dominant? Well, that's what they had in common. They had this crazy camaraderie and unity, and most importantly, drive to be better and growth minded. And you put a whole bunch of men and women in the same area that are all rowing in the same direction, they will whoop the shit out of a team that has got all the best talented players that are all discombobulated, that aren't rowing in sync, that are pulling in different directions, that are fighting amongst each other. This is why I love sports so much, because I see that parallel in business. There's a very similar parallel that if you find a team like that, I can take a team of, ragtag bunch that on paper doesn't look like the smartest, best trainers, but we will crush another team because we have that working for us. I love that because it levels the playing field. Because not, our little mind pump trainer business is not going to compete with a Crunch or 24-Hour Fitness or somebody who has a $100 million budget to go hire and find talent, do something like that.
Not yet.
So not yet, right? So we have to find a way to do it otherwise. But I think we could whoop on those teams because we have other advantages. We're nimble. We do get to build from scratch. We are taking the time with every single one. You get that big of a ship, you end up just onboarding all kinds of random people. And then you hope you put the right guys or girls together, and you hope you hired the right leader to lead those people through that. But it's hard. That's hard to find. And so I love that part about business.
So before we kind of wrap up here, how can somebody create that environment if they don't have it? So whether it's someone that's solopreneur doing their own thing, or maybe somebody that does work in a big box gym and just isn't surrounded by the most growth minded type of individuals, how do they cultivate that? How do they create that for themselves?
That's culture. And I think it starts with your core values. I think it starts, I used to not be like the biggest fan of like business core values. Like that's, you read any business book and they're like, you gotta have your core values, and everybody has an opinion on how many or how to find them or what it looks like. But it's really distilling down the 3 to 5 things that you think are the most important to your culture. And it doesn't matter if you have 2 or 3 people on your staff or you have 50 people on your staff. Determining what that is, and then operating and looking through that lens always. So when you come into a roadblock or a decision, should we go left? Should we go right? Should I hire this person? Should I not? You refer back to your core values, and it what I found helps about having those written down and really like nailing it down. Like, okay, these are the things that are most important to me. You're willing to overlook a lot of other things that actually don't matter that much. Like let's say that you sit down and you decide like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I'm like, this is the type of culture I want, and you've already touched on it before. I want growth minded. I want humility. I want you have a few things that are like you're like, I know that those are really important. What you didn't say was you need to have at least 3 national certs. You need to have at least 4 years experience. Like you didn't say any of that, and so. You might be in this interview and you're like, man, this kid's really green. He's only got, 3 months experience and we really could use somebody who's more this, but you're like, it's not even one of my core values. What do I care?
Yeah.
Like he exudes those 3 or 5 core values. Like it's a hell yes then. And then the reverse is true. You interview someone and you're like, damn, this is the Michael Jordan of personal trainers. His shooting average, he's been doing it forever. Everybody talks about he's the best ever. But when I asked him those questions around growth and learning, and it didn't sit well with me. Or when I asked him those questions, about humility, like it wasn't. He was kind of cocky. Like you're like, oh, on paper this guy looks so awesome, but if he doesn't fit, that's how you develop culture. Is you develop a team around those core values, and the decisions that you make when it comes to hiring, firing, and decisions that you'll make with steering the ship come from that lens of, and it helps to have that. We, even scaling something to the size that we have scaled this business, there's been several times where we took our eye off the core values. And because you can get distracted really easy in any business. There's so many moving parts. There's so many different people. There's so many things you got to worry about, KPIs, all the things. And sometimes you get so focused, you get a little bit of tunnel vision because that serves you many times to be so hyper-focused on improving this or improving that when you zoom out, you go, what are we doing? Like this doesn't even really align with our core values. And so we've had those reality checks even in this business as we're chasing growth and revenue year over year and trying to scale and grow and build. We started to scale and build, and the more we went, the further we started to drift in some areas from what we believed our core values. It doesn't mean we were doing something bad or wrong. It's just that it wasn't centered in that. Mm-hmm. And yet we made those decisions because somebody convinced us this was smart or this was better or this is a good idea. When it's like, no, if we would have just looked at that through our lens, like how does this serve those 3 to 5 things that we talk about as the most important to us? Like if it doesn't really serve that or align with that, like what are we doing? And so there's a lot of value in determining what those are and then revisiting them on a semi-regular basis to remind yourself, like, because if you haven't already experienced this, which I'm sure you have, there's things where you're like, oh, we should do this, oh, we should do that. Or like, oh man, someone else is doing this and they're killing it. And then you're like, well, does that really align with this culture I'm trying to building? Like,
it's like every day.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Right. I mean, it's every day in business. Yeah. And so, your ability to stick to those core values and to, and I think we could be better at this, like, repeating that to the team as a bit of what is the I forget the name of the movie with the De La Salle story? Are you familiar with the De La Salle story? The
football team?
Yeah, the football team. Yeah. Like, if you remember, like that's how he built that before we got into football skills, all these things like that. Like, this is who we are. This is what we believe in. And like they had to say it. They had to say it. They had to talk about it. They had to believe it. They were taught to always revert back to that. And it's like, none of that had anything to do with throwing a ball, catching, handing it off, like all the skills that make a good football player. But he knew that, okay, we had to develop that culture first, that everybody was bought in. We all said the same thing. And a good test for this is like, you should be able to walk and ask anybody of your staff, like, hey, what are the 3 most important things as a trainer that you should do, and they should all say the same thing. If they all give you different answers, then as a leader, I could be better about building that within the culture. Is like we all got to know like that we look through this lens, that these are our values, this is what's important to us, so that when I at any time come over and I ask one of them, what are your 3 things, or what are the 3, whatever, whatever, how you want to word it, they all poo right away, because it's like, yeah, that's our mantra. That's who we are. That's what we do. And then everything else is like, oh yeah, and then we're good trainers, and oh yeah, and we help people with macros, and oh yeah, we do the thing, but we do this, and this first. That's culture.